It was an early Sunday morning in suburban Columbus. The yard was still damp from overnight dew. Ben Miller stood at the trunk of his gray SUV, wiping the edge of the bumper with his palm, a habit he hadn't broken even after his children had grown up. There were two suitcases in the driveway, an old blue one with a worn handle and a new graphite one with a bright airline baggage tag. The graphite one had a tag on the handle that read E. Millerg. Whitaker, two names on one piece of plastic. Ben read it twice, as if he'd seen it wrong. "Dad, are you sure you don't want me to drive?" Maya asked as she walked out of the house, tightening her ponytail. She was wearing a college sweatshirt and sneakers. She looked at her suitcases. "I can drive, and then you can watch the GPS in case there's construction on the highway." "I can handle it," he said without looking up. "Let's go via 107. It's faster to Terminal B." The door slammed and Erin came out. She was wearing black skinny pants, a light jacket, and her hair was pulled back. She looked collected and confident, like she was about to give an important presentation. Under her arm was a laptop in a leather case. The phone vibrated in her hand. She glanced at it, smiled briefly, and hid the screen. "Ready?" she said. "We have a flight at 10:45, but I need to be there early. Grant likes to be at the check-in desk an hour or so before." Ben nodded. He picked up the graphite suitcase. It was heavier than expected. There was a shimmying sound inside, and Ben found himself trying to guess whose things were inside, hers or theirs. He put the suitcase in the trunk, carefully placing the blue one next to it. "Two suitcases for two?" Maya asked casually. "Where's your carry-on, Mom?" "There," Erin pointed to the black shoulder bag. "It'll last a couple of days. You can always buy more in New York if you need anything." They got in. Ben pulled out onto an empty street. Someone was talking about the Buckeyes football game on the radio, but Ben wasn't listening. Maya was texting on her phone, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the car. Erin was scrolling through emails, occasionally responding briefly with "acknowledged" or "yes, we'll discuss it after mediation." "This is the mediation," Ben asked as they turned onto the highway. "With a client in Brooklyn who's in a dispute with a contractor." "Not Brooklyn, Queens," Erin corrected, without much interest. "But yes, it's a complicated case. Grant is negotiating, I'm preparing the materials and the protocol." "I see," Ben said, his hands on the wheel a little tighter than usual. Maya raised her head. "Mom, will you be back on Tuesday evening?" "If all goes according to plan, yes," Erin said. "The flight leaves at 7. But look at the training schedule. I'm not sure I'll be able to pick you up in time. Dad will cover you." "Okay," Maya nodded. They slowed down at the interchange. A truck with flashing lights was parked on the shoulder. Workers were moving cones. Ben automatically turned on his turn signal and changed lanes. He looked ahead, but the tag on his suitcase kept spinning in his head. E. Miller G. Whitaker. Why two names? Usually, he and Erin argued at the airport about who packed whose socks. Each took his own suitcase. Even when they flew to Arizona for a cousin's wedding, they each had a bag. Now they had one big one. Practical, possibly. Storage issue, maybe. He tried to find a neutral explanation, but the words themselves formed an awkward assumption. Terminal B was bustling. People were hurrying, lugging bags, arguing at the taxi stand. Ben stopped at the drop-off area, turned on his hazard lights. Maya jumped out first, opened the trunk. Erin got out, looked around, straightened her jacket. At that moment, a tall man in a dark coat approached them. Grant Whitaker. Ben had seen his smile in corporate photos and once in the office when he picked Erin up after a late meeting. The smile was the same confident and a little lazy. "Ben, right?" Grant asked, extending his hand. "Grant Whitaker. Nice to meet you again." "Yes," Ben said, shaking his hand. Grant's palm was warm and dry. "Have a good flight." "Thank you." Grant looked at Maya. "Maya, right? Sorry, we haven't been introduced. I'm your mom's boss. She does a brilliant job." "Nice to meet you," Maya said, her voice even. Erin stood next to Grant. leaning slightly toward him the way colleagues do when discussing details. Grant picked up the graphite case with his free hand. "This one's ours," he said easily. "We didn't want to give up two. The tickets saved one seat. The extra baggage fees are crazy these days." He smiled at Ben. It wasn't so much friendly as triumphant. "It's all about efficiency." Ben nodded, the word "our" stuck in his head. "Okay," Aaron said. "We have to go. Registration opens in about 10 minutes. Thanks for the ride." She leaned towards Maya and hugged her tightly. "Be smart. I'll write before boarding. If you need a card for refueling, there's a limit for today. Use it." "Okay, Mom." Aaron turned to Ben. He stepped forward and kissed her cheek. The scent of her perfume was familiar. She smiled briefly, as if to be polite. "I'll be back on Tuesday," she said, not looking him in the eye. "We're waiting," Ben answered. Grant had already rolled the suitcase a few steps. He glanced at Aaron, nodded slightly toward the entrance. Aaron picked up the black bag, adjusting the strap as she went. They walked toward the automatic doors. Grant said something to her quietly, and she responded with a smile at the corner of her lips. Not a gesture that could be called obvious, but nothing resembling the usual working distance. Ben closed the trunk. Maya stood nearby, her hands in the pockets of her sweatshirt. She looked at the glass doors through which her mother and Grant had disappeared. "Dad, you see, right?" she asked quietly. "What exactly?" he answered in the same tone. "I don't know. How they walk. How he speaks. This suitcase. It's strange." "It might just be convenient," Ben said. "Let's not jump to conclusions." "Okay," Maya nodded. "It's just, I noticed." They got into the car. Ben turned off the hazard lights and pulled out into traffic. They drove in silence for about 5 minutes. Then Maya asked, "Do you trust her?" Ben inhaled and exhaled. "I want to trust. That's all I can say now." "Okay." They pulled into a cafe near the airport. It was a small place with floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee. Ben suggested breakfast. Maya agreed. At a table by the window, they ordered eggs and toast, coffee for Ben, tea for Maya. People were talking about trips, arguing about schedules, children playing with coloring books. Everything was normal, but in Ben's head, it was all dense and compressed. "Do you remember when we flew to Savannah last year?" Maya asked, stirring her tea. "We had one big suitcase then, too. You said it was more convenient that way." "Yes," said Ben. "We flew together." She nodded, realizing that the comparison wasn't quite right. They ate in silence for a while. Ben found himself watching his phone, even though he wasn't expecting a call. He wanted it to be simple logistics, and at the same time, he was already making a mental list of questions he'd never ask out loud. "Mom really does work a lot," Maya said, as if making excuses. "This company squeezes everyone out of them. Maybe they just decided not to carry around extra stuff." "Maybe," Ben said. "She's talented. She's appreciated." He took a sip of coffee. "Let's do it this way. We don't make a story out of it before there's a story. Okay?" "Okay," she repeated. They got home around noon. The house was quiet. The older boys, Jack and Ethan, were visiting friends. Jack had moved to campus a week ago, but sometimes slept at home when he stayed overnight with his brother. Ben took off his jacket, hung it on a hook, and went into the kitchen. On the table was a printout of the week's menu plan. Aaron liked to make lists. At the top, in neat handwriting, was written, Sunday, pasta with vegetables. Monday, fajitas. Tuesday, leftovers. Ben smiled automatically. He opened the refrigerator, looked at the container of chopped bell peppers, and closed it. The phone vibrated. A message from Aaron. "Checked in. Gate 23. All okay." Ben replied, "Have a nice flight." A few minutes later, a thumbs-up emoji arrived. He went up to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. On the dresser was a ticket envelope with an airline logo on it. Aaron often brought them from the office. Next to it were a charger, 2 hairpins, and a receipt from the pharmacy. Ben looked at the familiar little things and thought how little they told you about life when you started asking other questions. Maya knocked on the door. Dad, I'm going to my room. Then should I stop by Grandma and Grandpa's? They asked me to bring fresh eggs. Grandpa called. Let's stop by, Ben said. In an hour? Yes. He turned on the washing machine and threw in some towels to keep himself occupied. Then he walked into the office, a small room with a bookcase and a desk. On the desk was a shared family tablet. An airline notification blinked on the screen. Baggage status change. He tapped it. The standard message appeared. Your baggage has been checked. One piece. At the bottom was the passenger's name, Miller E., and some internal markings. Nothing to explain the second name on the tag. He closed the screen and put the tablet back. In the garage, Ben checked the gas tank for the lawnmower and looked at his tools. Business always saved him from thinking. But this time, business didn't. He kept coming back to the terminal door, to Grant's gaze, to the word hour. He tried not to theorize, but his brain did it on its own, as if by inertia. On the way to her parents' farm, she and Maya talked about her plans. She was starting classes at a local college in the fall. She was choosing subjects, thinking about working part-time at a cafe. On Monday evening, the heat subsided. Maya closed her laptop and went out onto the porch with a cup of tea. Ben was already sitting there, by the railing, a notebook with a few lines in his hands. He raised his head and motioned for her to sit down next to him. We need to talk, he said. Not for 5 minutes. I understand, Maya replied. She put the cup on the step and hugged her knees. Is this about yesterday? About yesterday and today. Ben put the notebook on the table. Lauren Whitaker called me today, Grant's wife. Maya nodded silently. She didn't look away. She said she had proof, Ben continued. A room reservation in New York City, 1 room for 2. Check-in times. Photos from the lobby. Restaurant receipts. Correspondence. She hired a detective. Did you see all this? Maya asked. Part. Video from the lobby and the receipt. I didn't read all the messages. There is no meaning in every word. The main thing is the fact. Does Mom know that you know? Maya's voice remained even, but she clasped her hands tighter. No, and we're not telling her yet. I made an appointment with a lawyer for tomorrow. I want to do everything right first. No arguments on the phone, no shouting. He looked at Maya. I don't want our house to be turned into a battlefield. Maya took a deep breath. I'm not little. You can speak frankly. I'm being blunt, Ben said. There's a good chance Mom is having an affair with her boss. I don't know how long. But right now, yes, I'm not going to make a scene at the airport or the office. And I don't want you to. It's important for us to keep our heads cool. There will be decisions to make, legal and family. Maya turned away and looked at the neighbor's yard. She was silent for a few seconds, then said, I was angry with Grant yesterday, and now I'm angry with her. And at the same time, I feel sorry for her. It sounds strange, but that's how it is. She returned her gaze to her father. What do you want me to do? First, Ben said, you're not a go-between. You don't pass anything from me to Mom or vice versa. No, Dad said, or Mom asked. If Mom calls you, talk about your life. If she starts pressing you for details, say it's between adults. You can refer to me. Okay. Second, tonight we'll pack the essentials and move in with my parents for a couple of weeks. I already talked to them during the day. They don't know the details, but they're preparing a guest room. The reasons are simple. You need a quiet place. I need one too. When Mom comes back on Tuesday, we won't bump into each other in the kitchen and sort things out between 2 pots. Do you want to leave today? Yes, late in the evening or very early in the morning. We'll take things for the first time. Documents, equipment, medicine, chargers, some clothes. No boxes, no furniture removal. Everything else will stay. We don't hide anything or take anything out secretly. I'll take photos of what's in the house just for record keeping, and that's it. Jack and Ethan, Maya asked, what are you going to tell them? I'll write briefly in the family chat. Maya and I are at our grandparents' for a couple of weeks. Everything is okay. I'll explain later. I don't want to lie, but I don't want to discuss this in correspondence. Jack will most likely call. I'll tell him the same thing. I'll figure it out and then tell him normally. Okay, Maya said. I can handle college. It's a longer ride from Grandma's, but there's a bus. She picked up her cup and took a sip. I don't want to look Mom in the eye when she gets back. At least not right away. I understand. Ben took the notebook. We'll make 2 lists. Yours what you take, mine what I take, and a couple more organizational things. Come on, Maya nodded. They filled out the sheets in silence. Maya had a laptop, notes, 2 sets of jeans, sneakers, a charger, headphones, contact lens care, a first aid kit, a favorite sweatshirt, a passport, and a driver's license. Ben had a work laptop, a folder with documents, copies of insurance, a list of passwords for household accounts, a spare shirt, things for the gym, and a shaving kit. He wrote down a separate line. Photos on the phone take pictures of the rooms for the record. Maya looked at the line and said nothing. Are you going to talk to Grandma and Grandpa now? She asked. I already told you. I'll call again to say that we'll be arriving late, and for Grandpa to leave an extra key on the porch. Ben took out his phone and dialed. Dad, yes. We'll arrive after 10. Yeah, everything's fine. No, we're not sick. Yeah, I'll tell you tomorrow. Thanks. He hung up and looked at Maya. They're worried, but they'll understand. Let's walk around the house and get ready. They started in her room. Maya put her laptop in her backpack and her clothes in her bag. She pulled a small box of bracelets out of a drawer and put it in there. Then she stopped at a photo frame on her desk, a picture from high school of her and Aaron in the stands. She took the frame off, looked at it for a few seconds, and put it back. Take it if you want, Ben said. I'll leave it. I don't want it to seem like we're taking anything out. Let everything be in its place. Fine. Ben's bedroom was simple. He put a folder of documents in his bag to take to the consultation tomorrow and put on a couple of shirts. He took an old t-shirt out of the closet, thought about it, and left it. In the bathroom, he put the essentials. Then he walked through the rooms and took a video on his phone. The living room, the kitchen, the storage room, the garage. The photo shows everything as is. Books, dishes, tools. He didn't comment, he just recorded. Maya stood nearby while he filmed the garage. Do you think this will be useful? She asked. Sometimes people argue about what was before, Ben replied. I don't want to argue about pots or an old TV, but the order doesn't hurt. Understood. They walked back to the porch. The bags were by the door. In the kitchen, Ben wrote a short note. We're at my parents'. We'll be back for our things later. Maya is fine. Ben. He placed it under a magnet on the refrigerator. He didn't cross it out or add anything else. Dad, Maya said, I keep wondering, what if this was a mistake? What if they really slept in the same room because there were no others, or something else? I've asked myself the same questions, Ben said. That's why I don't call and yell. I talk to a lawyer, ask for the facts, and then I talk. If I'm proven wrong, I'll apologize. But there's a lot of evidence now. I don't want to hear the details, Maya said. At least not now. You don't have to, Ben nodded. You don't have to carry this on your back. And you? She asked. How are you? I'm angry, and I'm hurt. But I don't want it to control my actions, because then everything will get worse. That's fair, Maya said. He looked at his watch. 10:20. Let's go. Let's go. They turned off the lights, checked the doors. Ben pressed the alarm, and they went out to the car. The night was quiet. On the next street, someone was unloading boxes from a pickup truck, a move. Maya put her backpack on the back seat, buckled up. Should I text Jack and Ethan now? She asked. I'll write myself, Ben replied. He typed, Maya and I are at our grandparents' for a couple of weeks. Everything is okay. I'll call tomorrow. He sent it to the family chat. A minute later, Jack replied, Everything okay? You're scaring me. Ethan replied, "Okay, what happened?" Ben answered both of them the same way. "We'll talk tomorrow, not tonight." The drive to his parents' house took 40 minutes. They drove in silence. The radio played softly. There were trucks on the highway. One patrolman was making a U-turn across the median. Ben slowed down at the ring road and turned toward a familiar farm. His parents' house stood with a yellow light in the living room windows. There really was an extra key on the porch. The door opened softly, without a creak. The hallway smelled of baked goods. In the kitchen lay a note from his grandmother. "Take a pie. The blanket is in the guest room. Good night." "I feel like I'm a child," Maya said quietly. "This place is safe," Ben replied. "You're in no danger here." They went to their rooms. Maya locked herself in the guest room and immediately texted someone on her phone. Ben heard short vibrations. He laid out the papers on the table, charged the phone, and put a notepad with tomorrow's items on the nightstand. 10 o'clock Brenda. Call Lauren. Separate account for current expenses. Letter to Aaron after consultation. Check insurance. He sat on the edge of the bed and went over the plan in his head once more. A minute later, Maya knocked on the door. "Ken?" "Certainly." "I've been thinking," she said, coming in. "Let's agree on one more thing. I don't read my mother's phone, I don't pry into anything. And you don't pry into my correspondence either. Not because I'm hiding something, but because otherwise everything will turn into chaos." "I agree," Ben said. "We're not turning into an investigative unit. Everything that's needed for the case will be done through a lawyer and legally. And one more thing. If Mom calls and starts asking me questions, I'll say, 'Call Dad.' And that's it. That's how it should be. Okay? Then I'll try to sleep." "Go ahead. I'll take you to college in the morning. Then I'll go to Brenda's. Okay? Good night." "Good night." She left. Ben turned off the light. In the silence, he heard the clock ticking in the hallway. Sleep did not come immediately. He forced himself to return to tomorrow's plan, to simple steps, to the schedule. Not to reasons, not to explanations, to steps. He did not know how this path would end, but he understood that he had to start without shouting and without lies. He decided to stick to this line, no matter how inconvenient it was. Before he closed his eyes, he typed a short message to Lauren. "We moved in with my parents for a couple of weeks. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. Thanks for the materials." The answer came almost immediately. "I understand. Hang in there. We'll be in touch tomorrow." He put the phone down and finally hung up. Tuesday morning began in the kitchen of my grandparents. The smell of oatmeal pancakes mingled with the aroma of strong coffee. My grandmother had put syrup and a plate of strawberries from the freezer on the table. My grandfather was already leafing through the local newspaper and making notes in the classifieds column with a pencil. "Would you like another drink?" Grandma asked, holding the coffee pot to Ben's mug. "Yes, thank you," he said. Maya sat down opposite him, pulled her plate toward her, but didn't pick up her fork yet. She looked collected, but there was a strain in her eyes that Ben recognized. "It's like you both haven't slept," the grandfather noted. "If you need something, just say it. We've lived through our days. You won't surprise us with anything." "Thank you, everything is under control," Ben replied. "We'll live with you for a couple of weeks, then we'll decide." Grandma nodded. She didn't ask any unnecessary questions. She put 2 more pancakes on Maya's plate and said quietly, "Take some apple pie with you. You can have a snack during your break." The air was cool when they got out of the car. Ben loaded Maya's backpack and got behind the wheel. The drive to college led past fields and quiet streets. The traffic near campus was heavy. People were dropping off students, others were looking for a parking space. "I can take the bus back by myself," Maya said, "if you have things to do." "I'll pick you up. But first, we need to talk," Ben said. "I don't want to leave any more gaps, and I don't want either of us to fill in the blanks." She looked at him carefully. "Then it's better now," she said. "Don't wait until the evening." He pulled into the empty parking lot at the back of the sports field. He turned off the engine. He turned to his daughter. 15 years ago, My mother and I were going through a tough time. Jack had just started elementary school. Ethan was often sick. I worked a lot, sometimes on weekends. My mother also wanted to advance in her career. She had just moved to her current company. We lived like a conveyor belt. Someone would take us, someone would pick us up, someone would cook the soup. We stopped talking about things other than business. He paused. At that moment, my brother, Caleb, appeared in our lives again. He is older than me. He has always been an easy person to talk to. He knows how to listen. He knows how to joke. He knows how to be there. Maya said nothing. She waited. At first it seemed like help, Ben continued. He carried boxes to the dacha, drove Jack to training, sat with Ethan when needed. Then I started noticing that he and Mom were texting more often than was necessary. I noticed little things, laughter in the kitchen when I wasn't there, silence when I walked in, little things that added up to anxiety. How did you know? Maya asked. Stupidly, Ben said. We had regular push-button phones back then. Caleb sent her a message, and it popped up on the screen while the phone was on the table. It wasn't explicit, but there was a tone that was unmistakable. I asked. At first, she denied it. Then, when I showed her the call log, she admitted it. Said it had happened more than once, that they were trying to figure out what it meant, that they didn't want to hurt anyone. I talked to Caleb. He admitted it, said it was a mistake, that he'd fallen in love and lost his bearings. Did you leave home then? Maya asked quietly. No, Ben said. I stayed. I laid out strict terms. We go to couples counseling. We set boundaries. We cut off contact with Caleb. I said if it happens again, it's over. We went to therapy for 5 months. Then we stopped. Life went back to being on a schedule. Work, school, home. I convinced myself it was best for Jack and Ethan. You weren't even here then. She nodded, processing the dates. And did Grandpa and Grandma know? She asked. No. Officially, no. My mother told her sister. I told no one. Only the 3 of us knew about Caleb. The year after, at Thanksgiving, he came, but he sat at the other end of the table. We looked past him. From then on, he rarely showed up. We kept our distance. You probably remember, he always left early on holidays. It wasn't because of business. I thought you were just arguing about money or who was selling the land, Maya said. I asked my grandmother last year why you weren't talking, and she said brothers are stubborn sometimes. I dropped the subject. We closed the issue because it was easier, Ben said. But it was wrong. We pretended it never happened. And I know that's what I taught you, the wrong thing, that problems should be hidden so there's no noise. I'm not proud of that decision. Maya looked towards the stadium. Someone was already warming up on the field. Do you love your mother? She asked. I loved the version of our family I was trying to keep for a long time, Ben said. That's not the same as loving someone. I guess deep down I've been afraid for a long time that it would happen again. That's why yesterday hit me like it did, even though I was expecting bad news. Why didn't you tell us before? She asked. Well, at least me. When I was 16, I could understand. I was afraid it would ruin your worldview. I was afraid you'd start picking sides. I was afraid you'd start hating Mom or me. And I was afraid that if I said what happened out loud, I wouldn't be able to live with it anymore, Ben said. That's a weakness. I don't want to do that now. What's wrong with Caleb? Maya asked. Are you talking to him? Almost none. We crossed paths at my great-uncle's funeral and at a barbecue at my cousin's. We exchanged a few phrases. He didn't block the phones, but he didn't look for excuses. Today, I'm going to call him. I want to settle an old debt. Not to talk about it and relive the past, but to put the dots on it, so that he understands that this time there will be no secrets, that I'm acting according to the facts and the law. Maya was silent for a few seconds. Then she said, I'm not going to communicate with him on my own initiative. But if you deem it necessary, I'm ready to be there. Just without family reconciliations for the sake of a picture. I don't want to sit at the table with a person who did this as if it were an ordinary day. I'm not going to drag you into this, Ben said. Your no is a no. She took a deep breath. You know what's weird? She said. I feel better now that you told me, even though it hurt. At least a lot of things make sense now, like why you always drove me to practice while Mom stayed home more often, why we went to separate Christmases, why Grandpa's pictures of Caleb disappeared from his mantle. I thought you two had a fight about the tractor. Ben chuckled briefly. We had a row about the tractor too, he said. But that's not the cause of the main rift. What are you going to tell Jack and Ethan? Maya asked. True, but step by step. First, I'll say that my mother and I are going through a serious crisis, and that you and I are staying with our grandparents temporarily. Then I'll add that I have facts that I'm checking with a lawyer. If they start asking me to prove it, I'll say that the details will come in due time. I don't want to throw a video into their chat. That's wrong. They will protect Mom, Maya said quietly. I know them. Perhaps, Ben said, and they have a right to do so. But we will all have to rely on actions rather than emotions. He looked at his watch. It's time for you to go to class. I'll pick you up at 2 at the 3rd building. Afterwards, I have a meeting in the city center. With a lawyer, she clarified. Yes, Brenda Coleman. She used to work for my mother's company. She knows their ways. Okay, Maya said. Dad, thanks for telling me. It doesn't make it any easier, but it makes it clearer. She hugged him quickly, as if she were afraid she would cry right there. She got out of the car, slung her backpack over one shoulder, and walked toward the building. Ben watched her go, waited until she disappeared through the glass door, and started the engine. He pulled out of the parking lot and stopped a block away in a short-term parking spot at a hardware store. He took out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. Caleb's number wasn't in his address book. He'd deleted it years ago. He dialed his father's number, briefly explaining that he needed a contact. His father sighed and dictated. Ben hung up and dialed Caleb's number. The beeps dragged on for a long time. Voicemail went off. A calm male voice asked to leave a message. Ben didn't hang up. Caleb, it's Ben, he said. We need to talk. In person. Not about the past, but about what's going on now. I won't make a scene, but I need to meet. Call me. Today. He hung up. 10 minutes later, the phone vibrated. Ben, the same voice, only lively and cautious. Yes, I heard you were in town, Caleb said. Father talks sometimes. What happened? We'll meet and I'll tell you. Not on the phone. Can you do it tonight or tomorrow? Today I can't. Tomorrow, yes. Where? At the old pond by Miller's pasture, Ben said. At 7. I will, Caleb answered shortly. Ben, he paused for a second. I know what you think of me. I'm not asking for anything. I'll just come. Okay, Ben said and hung up. He sat for another minute, looking out the windshield. Then he drove to the office downtown, where he had a meeting with Brenda. On the way, he called Lauren. I told my daughter the truth about the old story, he said without preamble. And I arranged to meet Caleb tomorrow. That's right, Lauren replied. The fewer secrets, the better. On my end, I have a couple more receipts and a printout from the airport when they boarded. I'll add them to the folder. Thank you. After consulting with a lawyer, I will determine the next step. Hold on, she said, and don't read too much. It sucks you into the funnel. Understand. He parked outside the apartment building where Brenda had a small office. The clock showed 10 to 10. He had a few minutes to go. He looked at the bullet point sheet on the passenger seat and added a new line in pencil. Meet Caleb. No recriminations. State the rules. The phone lit up with a message from Jack. Where are you? I'll stop by tomorrow. Ben replied, We're at Grandma and Grandpa's. Come by. Let's talk without jumping to conclusions. Ethan wrote, I'll be at practice tonight. Can call after 8. Ben sent, After 8 is fine. He walked up the stairs. A green light was on the door with a sign that read, Brenda Coleman, attorney. Ben took a breath and walked in. He didn't bother trying to figure out how to start the conversation. He decided to say only what he knew and ask about what he didn't. An hour after leaving Brenda's, he called Maya to check on her and remind her that he would pick her up at 2. She responded cheerfully, "Everything is fine. We have an introduction today, nothing complicated." He said he would come 5 minutes early. When he turned off his phone and got into the car, he realized a simple thing. Telling Maya the truth was harder than watching any video. But it was a step toward order, and tomorrow he would have another one at the old pond, where he had already lost once. Now he was not going to lose again, because this time he had a plan, not illusions. Wednesday dragged on as usual, but Ben had one thing on his mind, a meeting at the old pond at 7 o'clock. He drove Maya to college, stopped at the station, closed a couple of applications, and agreed with Ruth on a 2-day vacation next week, family matters. Jack called around lunchtime. "Dad, you scared me yesterday," he began without greeting. "What do you mean? Let's talk calmly. Is everything okay with Mom? Did you have a fight?" "We didn't fall out," Ben said. "We're in a serious situation. I won't explain it over the phone. Come to your grandparents' house at 8:30 tonight. Maya will be there. We'll talk together." "Does Mom know?" "Not now. I postponed the conversation until after consulting with a lawyer. This is a conscious decision." "Dad, Mom's not a monster," Jack said irritably. "And if this is just I imagined it, I don't want to hear the accusations." "Nobody's a monster," Ben said, "and it wasn't seeming. But I'm not going to drag you into a squabble over the phone. It's 8:30. You can stay the night if you want." The pause stretched out. "Okay," said Jack. "I'll come." Ethan wrote later, "I'm at practice until 9. I can come over after. And yeah, I don't want to argue. I just want to understand." Ben replied, "Come over. I'll be at my parents' house until late." Lauren called after lunch. "I gave Brenda what I have," she said. "She can request the originals for the court if necessary. How are you?" "I'm meeting my brother at 7, Ben said. "It's a separate thing, but it's important to close. Tomorrow, I'll probably start setting up a separate account for current expenses. Brenda said to open temporary limits on the card for Maya, so she doesn't have to depend on general payments." "Sounds right. I'll update the folder. There's a report about breakfast at their hotel. They were together. It's not a key fact, but it confirms the line." "I saw it," Ben said. "Thank you." At 6, he picked up Maya. On the way, she asked, "Are you ready to talk to Caleb?" "Yes," Ben said. "I don't want to argue. I want to set the rules. No secrets, no attempts to forget for the sake of peace. And also, it's important for me to hear from him that he hasn't been in contact with his mother all these years." "Do you want me to go with you?" she suggested. "No," said Ben. "This is between me and him. You mustn't listen to it. You'd better stay with Grandma. Jack will be here at 8:30. I'll be back by then or a little later." They stopped by their parents' house. Grandma left soup and bread on the table. Maya stayed to help her in the kitchen. Ben took the keys to the old shed a habit, although it was not needed at the pond, and drove out. The pond was 10 minutes from the farm, past the pasture where she and Caleb had once fished for bluegills. A gravel road, low bushes, a wooden gate without a lock. The bank was overgrown with reeds here and there. An old railroad tie table that had once held boxes of bait. The water was calm, with ripples of insects on the surface. Across the pond was a maple tree where they had argued as children over who could throw rocks like frogs. Ben arrived 10 minutes early. He parked at the gate, walked to the table, and sat on the edge. He could hear his own breathing and gave himself a minute to just sit. At 5 to 7, he heard an engine on the gravel road. The pickup pulled up slowly. Caleb got out. He was older. His hair was graying at the temples, his shoulders were broader than Ben's. Jeans, a gray hoodie, work boots. He stopped a few feet away, took off his baseball cap. "Hello," he said. "Hello," Ben replied. They stood for a second. Then Ben pointed to the table. "Shall we sit down?" "Let's sit down." They sat down on opposite sides. Caleb put his cap down next to him, looked at the water, then at Ben. "Thank you for inviting me," he said. "I had no hope." "I didn't call you to make peace," Ben said. "That's not my goal. I want to close the matter between us honestly and define how we live our lives when the dirt starts up again." Caleb nodded. "I understand. And I'll tell you straight. 15 years ago, I was wrong. I didn't make a mistake. I didn't snap. I made a conscious choice I had no right to make. You were my brother. Erin was your wife. I used access and trust that weren't mine. I'm not making excuses. I wanted to tell you this so many times so you'd believe it, but each time I thought words wouldn't fix anything." "Words don't fix it," Ben said, "but I need to hear them. And I want to know, after everything came out, did you and Erin have any contact?" "No," Caleb said. "I swore to myself and my therapist that I would never go near that line again. After our conversation that year, I went to work up north for a couple of months, then came back and stayed away. There was one time, 3 years later, she wrote me Merry Christmas on a general mailing list to an address I still had linked to work. I didn't respond. I deleted the email. We didn't meet. I didn't look for her, and she didn't look for me." Ben looked at him carefully. "Are you married?" he asked. "I was," Caleb said. 5 years, divorced. Not because of this. It just didn't work out. I live alone now. I work for an electrical contractor in Worthington." "What have you been telling your parents all these years?" Ben asked. "Nothing. I realized that any version would be a lie. I just backed off. My father sometimes tried to bring us together at the same table. I said I wasn't ready," Caleb sighed. "I'm not looking for an excuse. I want to know what needs to be done now so that you don't think that I'm hiding somewhere again." "I have a different problem now," Ben said. "It appears that Erin is having an affair with her boss. These are not my suspicions. I have the facts. I'm consulting with a lawyer. Maya and I are moving in with my parents for a while. I'm not going to make a scene, and I'm not going to repeat our mistake of keeping quiet. That's why you heard it from me and not from gossip." Caleb hung his head. "I hear, and I am doubly ashamed that my old action makes it harder for you now, because if it hadn't happened, you might have looked at everything differently." "Yeah," Ben said. "My thinking back then was, I'm keeping this family together for the kids. What I did was I swept it under the rug and made everyone else walk all over it. It was a bad decision. I won't do that now. I'll go the legal route, and I don't want you finding out and trying to make peace between us for the holidays. No mediation. If Mom asks you anything, you tell the truth. If Dad asks, you tell the truth. If you need evidence to back up the facts of the past, you'll provide it." Brenda and I discussed how this might be important context if Erin starts telling the court that everything was fine before third parties got involved. Caleb looked up. "I am ready. If they call me, I will tell you how it was. Not with a taste for details, but in essence. And if Erin tries to use me as a voice from the past, I will not support her. I played my part then, and it was wrong. Now only what the law requires." "One more thing," Ben said. "I don't want to bar you from my parents' house, but I don't want any casual encounters. If you're going to see them, let us know. We're still staying with them. I don't want Maya running into you in the kitchen unprepared." "I won't come when you're there," Caleb nodded. "Tell me the days, and I'll adjust." "For now, consider it the whole week," Ben said. "I'll check later." They were silent for a moment. A light wind rippled the water. "I want to ask you something that didn't make sense then," Caleb said quietly. "Why did you stay? You could have left. You're stronger than me. You could have done it alone." "I wasn't stronger," Ben said. "I was more comfortable. I was afraid of ruining my children's lives, afraid of moving, afraid of looks. I convinced myself that it was for the children's sake. The truth is, I was afraid of change. And that's my responsibility, too. I'm not afraid now. Not because I've become braver, but because I understand the value of silence." "I accepted," Caleb said. "If there's anything else you need from me, just let me know. I need you to stay away from Erin, no matter what happens next. Not at old meetings, not accidentally. If you see her around town, walk on by. Don't text, don't call. I've been doing it all these years, Caleb said, and I will continue to do so. He squeezed the cap in his hands and looked at his palms. Ben, he said, I'm sorry. I know it's not easy to hear, but I have to tell you. I accept your apology, Ben said. It doesn't bring back the past, but it does free us from having to endlessly repeat the same scene. From here on out, it's not a matter of words, it's a matter of behavior. Caleb nodded briefly. They both stood up. They didn't hug. Ben extended his hand. They shook it, briefly and firmly. Take care of Maya, Caleb said. I'm taking care of it, Ben replied. Caleb walked back to the car. The truck drove away, the gravel settled. Ben stood by the water for a few more minutes. He called Lauren. Met with my brother, he said when she answered. He admitted guilt for the past, confirmed he hadn't been in contact with Aaron, agreed to speak to the facts if necessary. It's important, Lauren said, both for you and for the future of the process. I have news too. Their firm's press service is keeping quiet for now, but the partners are conducting an internal investigation. Grant's former employee wrote to me she's ready to give a written statement. Okay, tomorrow I'll open a separate account and record the balances on the general ones. Brenda asked to make screenshots of the bank accounts as of today. Do it, and try not to talk to Erin today if she gets in touch. Going through lawyers is not a formality, it's protection. Understand. He hung up and drove back. His father and Jack were waiting on the porch. Grandma and Maya were setting the table. Ethan arrived later, wearing a sports jacket and with wet hair from a shower. In the living room, they sat in a semicircle. Ben began with what he had told Maya that morning. Facts, not theories. He described what he knew. The reservation, the room, the receipts, the video, the correspondence, the consultation with the lawyer. Jack started to object. Maybe it's just a cost-cutting measure, but stopped when Ben said, I have a video with a date and time, Jack. I don't discuss gossip, I discuss documents. What next? Ethan asked dryly. From now on, we live calmly and in an organized manner. We don't interrogate Mom. I'll write to her through a lawyer. I don't forbid you from communicating with her, but I ask you not to involve yourself in the showdown. If she starts discussing things with me through you, say, communicate with Dad directly. We don't cut off ties, but we set boundaries. Do you want a divorce? Jack asked bluntly. I want fair terms. Formally, the answer depends on how she behaves. But I'm ready for it, and I'm not afraid, and you shouldn't be afraid either. We'll get through this, Ben said. We're still a family, no matter what the paper in court is called. Jack turned his head away and wiped his eyes with his sleeve. I need time, he said. I'm not used to seeing my mother like this. Take time, Ben replied, but don't close yourself off to the facts. After the conversation, Maya went out onto the porch with him. How did it go with Caleb? She asked. As it should have been. He admitted it. He agreed not to hide. He promised to stay away and tell only the truth if asked. Do you feel better? A little. At least one door is closed. He sat down on the step. Voices, dishes, footsteps could be heard inside. Grandmother put the pie on the table. Father called everyone to dinner. Ben took out his phone, opened the banking app, took screenshots, saved them in a separate folder. Then he wrote to Brenda briefly, meeting with brother took place. He is ready to testify on the facts of the previous story if necessary. Screenshots of accounts have been taken. I will open a separate account tomorrow. The answer came quickly. Great. Tomorrow at 11, a short call on strategy. He stood up and walked into the house. There was soup, bread, and salad on the table. They ate in silence, occasionally exchanging unimportant phrases. It was a normal meal on an unusual day, and that was also important to maintain a normal routine while so much was changing around them. When everyone had gone their separate ways, Ben walked out into the backyard. He wasn't thinking about words, but about steps. Tomorrow, the bank, letters, work issues. The day after tomorrow, perhaps the first tough legal correspondence. He didn't theorize, he ticked off a list, and that kept him from chaos. Before bed, he texted Aaron briefly, "Maya and I are at my parents'. I am contacting a lawyer. Children, no intermediaries." He knew that would cause a flurry of messages, but he was no longer going to respond without a plan. He turned off the light. The night was quiet, and for the first time in many days, he fell asleep quickly. Wednesday started with the bank. Ben pulled into the branch on Main Street in Westerville at 9 o'clock sharp. It was empty inside, save for the quiet ringing of the number machine and the smell of paper. "Can I help you?" asked a woman in uniform with a Natalie Patel badge. "I need a separate checking account and debit card," Ben said, "in my name, and I need to increase the limit on my existing card for my daughter. For 2 weeks. Natalie suggested that we sit down and print out the forms. "We leave the joint accounts unchanged," she clarified. "Yes, we're not touching anything for now. I just need my daughter and I to have financial autonomy." "I understand," she said without further questions. "The card will be ready within 24 hours. I'll issue a temporary virtual one now. I'll increase the limit for your daughter by $100 a day for 2 weeks. Confirm the ESM's code." Ben confirmed. He received a printout with the details and put it in a folder. "Thank you," he said. "Have a nice day," Natalie replied. "If you need a statement for a date, come to the window and we'll do it." Next stop was Brenda Coleman's office downtown. The elevator took him to the 4th floor. There was a familiar sign on the door. Brenda opened it right away, as if she was waiting for his breath. "Come in," she said. "There's coffee. Sit down." The office was small. A table, 2 chairs, a file cabinet. Certificates and diplomas hung on the wall. Brenda looked put together. A dark jacket, her hair pulled back. She placed a yellow legal notebook in front of him. "I looked at what you sent me last night. Plus, Lauren gave me access to the folder. Let's go over the facts without getting emotional. Agreed?" "I agree," Ben said. "First, hotel reservation in New York in the name of Grant Whitaker, category King. There is a confirmation of the hotel. Check-in time is 11:42 p.m. Sunday. In the video, they are both checking in, receiving 2 cards for 1 room. This does not prove an intimate relationship, but it does prove co-location." "Accepted," Ben nodded. Second, receipts from the restaurant on Sunday and Monday evenings. Both times a table for 2, payment by Grant card. It cannot be said that this was not a working dinner, but in combination with the room, the picture is clearer. Yes. Third, fragments of correspondence. I will not quote. There is enough to establish a personal relationship beyond work. Important, some of the messages were sent from work phones and addresses of their company. This is a corporate risk, and this is already a matter of company policy. Brenda turned the page. Fourth, yesterday afternoon they were together at breakfast at the hotel, time 8:15, then a taxi to the client's office. The detective recorded that they walked next to each other, touched each other. There are photographs. Nothing explicit, just closeness. This is enough to describe the behavior. Ben kept his hands on his lap to keep from crumpling the paper. Now, Brenda continued about politics. "I left their company a year ago, but their code of conduct hasn't changed in the public domain for many years. It has a section on close relationships between employees. The rules are simple. If a manager enters into a personal relationship with a direct subordinate, this must be immediately disclosed to HR, and the manager must also be removed from any line of control, evaluation, bonus issuance, vacations, and so on. Otherwise, there will be disciplinary action, up to and including dismissal, plus a separate policy on conflicts of interest and abuse of office. It explicitly states that an undisclosed romance on a project is grounds for an internal investigation." Brenda looked at Ben. "Do we have instructions that this hasn't been disclosed?" "Not that I know of," Ben said. "Erin didn't say anything at home. She wouldn't have kept the formal notice to herself. We have joint insurance, and any personnel changes come up in letters. Okay, so Lauren has grounds on the corporate side. On the family side, too, but we're in no hurry. I'm proposing a plan. Brenda turned the notebook toward him so he could see the points. 1. You record the financial picture as of today. Screenshots of all joint accounts, credit cards, mortgage, pension savings, tax returns for the last 3 years. Save everything in a separate folder. 2. Don't take things out and don't transfer large sums. 3. Open a separate account. I've already done that. 4. Any communication with Aaron is only in writing and neutral, on household matters or on the children's matters, preferably through me when we start the process. 5. We send a notice to preserve evidence to Grant's company. We demand that they preserve correspondence, logs, and records of absences. This is a standard litigation hold. 6. Then we'll decide on tactics, either negotiations and an agreement or a lawsuit. I don't want to turn this into a show, Ben said, but I don't want to be silenced again. I understand, Brenda said evenly. We're not going to the tabloids. We're following the law. I'll suggest to Lauren that we coordinate our actions, synchronize the timing. If they're flying back to Columbus on Thursday, we can arrange for the package to be delivered immediately upon arrival. No scenes, just the fact. It's psychologically shocking for them, but legal. Lauren mentioned it, Ben said. She's ready. Then we'll prepare letters, Brenda nodded. And one more thing. You have to decide about the house. If you want to keep it, that's one strategy. If you're ready to sell or give up a share, that's another. Think about it. You have Maya. Is she underage? Remind her. She is 18. Her sons are 20 and 19. There is no guardianship, only domestic issues. It simplifies. Then the question is only finances and order. And the last thing. We do not read too much. I understand the desire to know why. This rarely helps. In court, it is not motivations that decide, but facts and behavior. I agree, Ben said. Brenda handed him a folder with dividers. Put here, finances, correspondence, photos, videos, house documents, insurance, and a list of questions you want to ask Aaron at the first meeting in the presence of lawyers. Write briefly. Without, how could you, only specific. When the relationship began, did you disclose to HR? Did you accept bonuses from Grant? Were there any joint business trips? Who approved them? All right, Ben said. The phone vibrated. A new notification from Lauren came in, added the room login logs and a couple more screenshots in the folder. Ben showed Brenda. The logs are useful, she said. They'll show that both cards were used overnight. That's more important than this argument about savings. They spent another half hour discussing the details. Brenda explained how to properly send Aaron the first letter. No accusations, information about Ben temporarily living with his parents and Maya, an invitation to switch to the lawyer-to-lawyer channel, a request not to show up unannounced. She wrote a draft. Ben read it. Not a single harsh word, just facts and requests. Sign now, he asked. I'm ready to send it by 5 today, Brenda said. But first, do 2 more things. A summary of your mortgage statement and a list of major purchases over the last 6 months. Plus, take photos of the rooms in case of disputes. You've already started. Keep going. And talk to Maya. Explain about the card and that the money is under control, so she doesn't worry. I will do it. He left the office after 11 with a folder and a clear list. It was warm outside. Ben got into his car and dialed Lauren. Brenda and I have coordinated, he said. She'll send the litigation hold to their firm. Aaron's letter is due by 5 today, ready for a joint delivery strategy. Great, Lauren said. My lawyer has the notices ready too. I'll check with the detective about the flight schedule for Thursday, and one of Grant's former employees is willing to testify about a previous affair. That's important for the corporate side. Understood. At 2, he picked Maya up from college. They stopped at a small cafe near campus. Ben got an envelope from the bank. A temporary card. The limit is for small expenses. Don't spend thoughtlessly, but don't skimp on food and travel either, he said. I won't touch the joint accounts, but independence for the next few weeks is important to me. Thank you, Maya said. I'm not going on a shopping spree, if that's what you mean. I know. I just want you to feel at ease. She nodded, then asked cautiously, will you send your mother a letter today? Yes, through a lawyer. There are no claims, only facts, and a request to communicate officially. I don't want to make a scene in front of you. Okay, Maya said. It makes me feel better. Ben took her to her grandmother's and then went home for a few minutes to take the remaining photos and pick up the folder with taxes. He arrived and opened the door with his key. The house was quiet. His note from yesterday was on the refrigerator. He walked through the rooms, taking photos. In Aaron's bedroom, there was a book and a charger on the nightstand. He didn't touch them. In the office, he took the taxes folder for 3 years. In the kitchen drawer, he found the mortgage agreement. He took a photo of the meter readings. This was Brenda's advice, so as not to argue about utilities later. As he was leaving, he heard his phone vibrate. A message from an unknown New York number. Hi, we'll be back until tonight, early flight tomorrow. Home by lunchtime. E. Ben looked at the screen for a few seconds and forwarded the screenshot to Brenda with the caption, business, not responding. She responded within a minute. Correct. I'll send the letter at 4:30 p.m. At 4, Ben was back at his parents'. He sat at the kitchen table and sorted the screenshots into a folder. He added his schedule for tomorrow. Maya's college, work, call with Brenda at 11. Grandma made him some tea. Is everything going according to plan? She asked calmly. Yes, Ben said, according to plan. At 4:37, an email arrived from Brenda, CC'd. Aaron's correct text, with an attachment a notice of preservation of evidence for Grant's firm. Brenda added briefly, sent, awaiting response. Do not respond to any emotional messages, forward them to me. 15 minutes later, Ben's phone was flooded with notifications from the family chat and personal ones from Aaron. What is this? Why are you doing this through a lawyer? Let's talk. This is a misunderstanding. Ben didn't respond. He simply scrolled through his feed, took a screenshot, and sent it to Brenda. She marked it accepted. Ethan called at 6. Dad, I'll be late with the coach. I'll come by at 9. Jack, I think, will arrive earlier. How are you? Okay, Ben said. Dinner's at 7. Come when you can. At 7, they all sat down at the table except Ethan. The conversations were simple. Grandpa about the tractor, Grandma about cucumbers. Jack glanced at his phone several times, but restrained himself. Did Mom write? He asked at some point. I did, Ben said. I gave it to the lawyer. That's how we'll do it. No shouting, by the rules. Okay, Jack said. I don't know how to feel about this, but I don't want to fight with you. And there's no need, Ben replied. Nobody should have to choose sides. You have to stick to the facts. Ethan arrived later, sat down, ate, and asked a few practical questions about Maya's college and weekend plans. No one brought up the subject of letters. At 9:30, Ben went out onto the porch. Lauren called. The letters have arrived, she said. Their PR is silent for now, but everything is already buzzing inside. A friend from the accounting department wrote to me. The partners have called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. This does not solve the family part, but for the corporate part, it is good. Got it, Ben said. We'll decide on the presentation tomorrow. Yes, Lauren said. The detective will be at the airport. Flight time is 12:10, landing around 2. I'll text you the details. I am waiting. He hung up and sat down on the top step. His phone vibrated briefly in his pocket. Brenda said, That's enough for today. Sleep. Tomorrow will be more satisfying. Ben went back into the house, checked the folder one more time, and turned off the light in the living room. There had been no grand speeches or explain why today. There had been documents, letters, bills, rules, cold facts that he could work with. Thursday began with short texts. From Lauren, the arrival time and a photo of Grant's boarding pass. From Brenda, confirmation that a courier would pick up the package at the airport. From Aaron, let's talk. This is out of control. Ben didn't respond. He checked his document folder, put 2 blank envelopes, a flash drive, and a to-do list for the day. House stuff, utilities, copies, up store, phone calls, electricity, water, insurance, Maya statistics textbook. Will you drop me off at campus and then drive me home? Maya asked over breakfast. Yes, I'll be back for lunch. I'll get your winter clothes and the textbook you left on the shelf, Ben said. And your sketchbook. I remember. Don't take anything extra, she reminded me. And please don't talk to Mom one-on-one, only through Brenda. We have a presentation at the airport. I don't plan to discuss anything before then, Ben nodded. Around 9, he left Maya at Building 3 and drove into the house. The street was quiet. The lawn in front of the house needed mowing. The mailbox was full of advertising leaflets and 1 letter from the bank. Ben took out the mail, inserted the key into the lock, and stopped. He rang the bell, although this was his own house. There was no one in sight. He opened the door and went in. The smell was familiar washing powder, coffee, but the air felt different. Erin's laptop was open on the kitchen table. Her jacket from her trip was on the back of a chair. On the refrigerator were children's drawings, long faded. Ben picked up a transparent folder and carefully folded the latest utility bills into it. Electricity, water, garbage, internet. He photographed them with his phone. In a desk drawer, he found the home insurance policy and the car insurance policy. He photographed them too, leaving the originals where they were. He went up to the 2nd floor of Maya's room. He took a statistics textbook, notebooks, a winter sweater, a pair of jeans, and an album from the shelf. There were small pieces of jewelry in her jewelry box, but he didn't touch them. In his bedroom, he opened the closet, took a folder with tax returns from previous years from the top shelf, and put it in his backpack to take to be copied. On the nightstand by the bed was an old family photo album. He flipped through a few pages and put it back. They didn't share the photos. The phone vibrated. A message from Jack. I'm at the house. Can we talk? Ben looked out the window. His son's car was parked at the curb. He walked down the steps and onto the porch. Hey, Jack said. He looked tired and nervous. I couldn't sit on campus. It all happened too fast. Hey, Ben said. Come on up on the porch. I don't want to talk inside. Let's do it here. They sat down on the top step. Jack held the keys in his hands and twirled them in his fingers. Mom called, he began. She said it was a misunderstanding, that you and Lauren were putting on a show, that everything could be explained, and that you're overdoing it with the lawyers. I don't discuss it without facts, Ben said. Do you want to see some of what I saw? Jack shrugged. Yes, but without details, he said. I don't want to see anything extra. Ben took out his phone and opened the folder with the video from the hotel lobby. He put it in the middle where you can see Grant signing, receiving 2 cards, and handing one to Erin. The date was Sunday, the time was 11:42. Then he showed the restaurant receipt for the following evening. 2 courses, wine, 1 bill, paid with Grant's card. He closed it. He showed a list of room logs the card was used that night. That's enough to understand, Ben said. I don't need to discuss the past with words. I need facts. I have enough of them not to call it a misunderstanding. Jack was silent for a long time. He looked at the stairs as if something important was written there. She says you do everything to humiliate her at work, he said quietly. That Lauren is getting back to her husband through her mother. I don't do anything at Erin's, Ben said evenly. I protect my rights and boundaries. Lauren protects hers. Their firm will handle corporate matters on its own terms. This isn't revenge. It's consequences. I don't want to pick sides, Jack said, but so far I see you're acting calmly. It's strange to say, but it's reassuring. You don't have to pick sides, Ben repeated. You have to stick to the facts and maintain respect for yourselves and each other. If Mom asks you to give me a message, tell her to communicate through her lawyers." Jack nodded. He ran his hand over his face. "What should I bring you from home?" he asked suddenly. "I can help you pack." "I've already packed. I'll take a couple of things and go to the up store to copy the documents. Then I'll take the copies to the bank. If you want to help, look in the garage. I left a list of tools there and took a photo for the record. And check if the valve for the hose is closed. It was leaking last time." Jack stood up. "I will. Dad," he paused for a second, "if Mom comes, you won't be there." "I won't say, will you? I'll leave. Any meetings will be in the presence of lawyers," Ben said. Jack nodded and went to the garage. Ben went back into the house, put the folder with the declarations, the bills, the flash drive, and Maya's textbook in his backpack. In the hallway, he took an old portable folder with a zipper from the closet. It was convenient to carry papers. He closed the house. He sat on the porch again for a second. The house stood the same as always, but the feeling was alien. Ben did not try to name this feeling. He simply noted that now was not the place for conversation. The up store was cool and flat. It smelled of toner and packing tape. The guy behind the counter with a Jake badge asked, "How can I help?" "Make copies of 3 years of tax returns, a mortgage, insurance, and a couple of statements, and scan everything into a PDF onto a flash drive," Ben said. "We will do it. Black and white or color?" "Black and white. Scans are in color." Jake took the folder, counted the sheets, pulled the edges. Ben filled out the contact form. While it was printing, he sat down at the table, opened his laptop, and wrote short letters to the utility services. "Please duplicate the electronic bills to my address, to the insurance company. Add my email for copies of notifications." He attached scans of his passport and policy as required by the forms. The phone vibrated. Lauren said, "They're in the air." Then Brenda said, "Courier ready." Ben answered both. "Copy." "Done," Jake called. "Here are the copies. Here's the flash drive. Should I check?" "I'll check at home," Ben said and paid with his card. On the way, he stopped at the electricity network office. There were 2 people at the service desk. He asked to put duplicate bills on his email and change the contact phone number to his number. The employee checked the data and printed out the confirmation. "The changes will take effect from the next monthly cycle," she said. "Before that, it's business as usual." "Thank you." He returned to his parents at 1 o'clock. Maya was sitting on the veranda leafing through a textbook with a bag of stationery lying nearby. "I found some cheap stickers at the bookstore," she said. "I have everything else. How's the house?" "Calm down." Jack was driving up. We talked. I showed him only what was necessary, without any unnecessary things. He still protects Mom, but he doesn't say misunderstanding without looking anymore, Ben said. "It's fair," Maya said. "He loves her. We all do. It doesn't change what happened." "Yes," Ben nodded. "The presentation is at the airport now. I won't go. Brenda and the courier will do everything." "And will you be able to do it later?" she asked. Yes, Brenda sent a report. They had lunch with their grandparents. At 2:45, Ben received a short message from Brenda. Delivered. They accepted the signature. No drama. "Aaron texted you, don't reply. I'm in CC." Almost immediately, the notifications began pouring in. Aaron wrote in the family chat, "What are you doing? This is offensive. We'll talk tonight." Then separately to Ben, "I'll get home and we'll discuss it. Get the lawyers out of here immediately." Ben forwarded it to Brenda. Reply, "Accepted." Ethan called at 4. "Can I pick up my pool uniform from you?" he asked. "And while I'm at it, I'd like to see some. Well, you know." "Come by at 5, Ben said. "We'll talk on the veranda. I'll show you the same thing I showed Jack. Nothing extra." Ethan arrived on time, a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, his wet hair pulled back into a ponytail. He greeted his grandmother and sat down next to his father. Ben opened the lobby video and the room logs again. Ethan watched attentively without asking questions. When the video ended, he was silent for a long time. "If this weren't our house, I'd say precisely," he said calmly. "It doesn't sound like saving. It sounds like a choice." "I'm not adding anything," Ben said. "It is exactly what it is." "Jack couldn't take it anymore and called his mom," Ethan said. "They were arguing. He's mad at you and at her at the same time. He says you do everything by the book, and it's annoying. I guess that's a normal reaction." "He has a right to be angry," Ben replied. "The main thing is not to destroy himself." "Okay," Ethan said. "I'll go to practice. If anything happens, I'll write." Right. He left. Ben was left alone on the porch. He checked his email, confirmations from the utility services, a letter from the insurance company about adding an email. The sound of a car was heard from the road Jack's car had pulled up. He came out with a package. "I took a picture of the whole tool and wrote down the markings," he said. "And I tightened the valve. It was leaking. You were right." "Thank you," Ben said. "Will Mom be home?" Jack asked. "Not today. She got the package at the airport. They'll sort things out at work by this evening, then maybe they'll go back to their apartments. I don't know the exact plan. I'm not going home today," Ben said. "I'm not going either," said Jack. "I'd rather stay with you. I don't want any surprises." "Stay," Ben said. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Lauren called. They were met by PR and the company's lawyers, she said. "The office has announced an internal investigation. Grant has been temporarily removed from the project. Aaron may be sent on leave until the matter is settled. It's a corporate matter. It's not your family's decision, but it does take the pressure off." "Thank you," Ben said. "How are the kids?" Lauren asked. "It varies. Jack is on the defensive. Ethan is on the facts. Maya is next to me. It's normal," he said. "Stay on the same page," Lauren said, "and don't overdo it. Courts don't like spectacles. They like documents. You're collecting them." "We're collecting," Ben confirmed. At 7, the four of them had dinner. Father asked Jack about classes. Grandma asked Ethan about swimming. Maya told him about the new anthropology teacher. Ben listened, sometimes smiling. He felt tired, but it was understandable from work, not from empty arguments. After dinner, he sat down at the table and sorted the papers again. He put copies for Brenda in one folder and for himself in another. He created 2 folders on the flash drive, finances_Ben and home_documents. On the sheet of paper, he added the item Internet Change Access Password. He remembered that the shared router was linked to Aaron's email and wrote down, "Call the provider and set up a duplicate to my email." He didn't plan to change anything unless necessary, but he wanted to have access. The phone lit up. Aaron calling. He pressed reject and immediately forwarded the screenshot to Brenda. A minute later, a message came from Aaron. "Answer. This is not about lawyers. This is about family." Ben did not answer. He wrote one sentence to Brenda. "Please confirm that any attempt at direct contact is being recorded." The answer came immediately. "Yes. Save, do not answer." Later, he went out into the yard. The sky was getting dark. The light in the kitchen was steady. Maya was sitting with her grandmother, going over recipes for the weekend. Jack was texting on his phone, occasionally looking up and catching his father's eye. Ethan returned at 9, went in, and put his bag by the door. "I have training tomorrow at 7 in the morning, he said. "I'm staying at my place, but if anything happens, I'm available." "Okay," Ben said. "Thanks for stopping by." "This is our home," Ethan said, "wherever we live." He left. Ben closed the door and found himself thinking. Ethan's words were better than any attempt to hold the picture. They weren't arguing about terms. They were doing what needed to be done. Before going to bed, Ben wrote a short letter to Aaron through Brenda. "Until the end of the internal review and consultations, please do not come to the house without permission. All domestic issues in writing." Brenda replied, "Sent." He set the alarm for 6 to take Maya to college and went to bed. The house across the street turned off the lights. This house at his parents' was quiet. And in that quiet, Ben realized for the first time in a week, he could do this. Not overnight. But he had a plan, and he had people around him holding the line. The house they'd lived in for so many years was no longer a place for decisions. Decisions were made here, at his parents' table, at the bank, at the up store, on the porch, where voices were kept down. And so it would continue. Friday dragged on smoothly, without any jumps. Ben drove Maya to class, stopped at the station to sign the invoices, and returned to his parents' house for lunch to sort through letters from Brenda and print out a couple of forms that needed to be filled out over the weekend. Erin didn't call, but she sent a formal, going to see a friend for a few days. Have a nice weekend, everyone messaged to the family chat. None of the kids responded to that. Ben forwarded the screenshot to Brenda. She wrote back briefly, noted. Lauren and I agreed to meet in the evening at a neutral place, a chain restaurant in the Easton area. Not noisy, a large parking lot, tables at a distance. Ben was already in the parking lot at 7. He arrived a little earlier to relieve the tension with action. He checked the list of questions, put a printout of the corporate regulations, a copy of the litigation hold, a couple of receipts, and a sheet of paper with notes on deadlines in a folder. Lauren walked in on time, wearing a light shirt, jeans, hair pulled back, a short leather shoulder bag. She nodded at him as if he were a colleague in a meeting and smiled, but without trying to warm up the atmosphere. Ben, she asked. Yes. Lauren. Yes. They shook hands and went to a table by the wall. The menu was handed to them. The waiter, a young guy with a badge saying Trevor, listed the soup of the day and offered water with lemon. No alcohol, Ben said, and I'll have a chicken salad. I'll have some vegetable paste, Lauren said, and some tea. Trevor left. They spent a few seconds silently sorting through the folders. Ben opened his and placed Erin's company regulations on top. Let's start with the documents, he suggested. I agree, Lauren nodded and pulled out a thin red folder. Here are statements from 2 of Grant's former employees. Both left the company in different years, both describe the same patterns: late meetings, hints, bonuses dependent on loyalty, attempts to transfer after refusal. This is not a criminal story, but for the corporate part, it is serious. My lawyer has the originals. You get copies. Ben glanced through it without reading the wording. It was important for him to know that the papers were there. Thank you, he said. Here's their firm's code of conduct, the section on workplace relationships. I've highlighted the disclosure obligations and consequences. My notes are on the second page. Lauren took the sheets of paper. Yes, that's what we'll be focusing on, she said. I also have printouts of logs from the hotel at night. The detective bought the employees' download for 3 days. Here you can see when each card was used, plus billings for their joint taxi rides. Our lawyers are already analyzing this. Okay, Ben nodded. I brought screenshots of the family chat where Erin wrote that we need to talk without lawyers. I didn't answer. Brenda asked me to record everything. That's right, Lauren said. I'm saving everything too. Yesterday, when they arrived, we did a clean presentation. No shouting, no cameras. This is important in case they try to play the harassment game. The PR department is in its own panic right now. We shouldn't interfere. Trevor brought water and bread and asked about the sauce. They took the standard one. Ben poured himself some water, took a sip, and put his phone on silent mode. How are your kids? Lauren asked. I'm not talking about emotions, but about organization. Do I need to adjust anything to their schedule? Maya is with me at my parents', Ben said. Jack and Ethan are shuttling around. We agreed. No mediation, no discussions of who's right. Everything through adults. I showed them only the facts. The lobby video, the logs, the receipt. Nothing extra. That's right, Lauren said. We have a son in his senior year. I told him exactly one thing. This is an adult conflict. You don't belong in it. Your job is school and the team. He asked if Grant was again. I said yes. He fell silent. I won't drag his emotions out. The waiter brought the food. They ate in silence for a minute, not out of awkwardness, but to get through the routine and get to the plan. I'd suggest a 2-week checkerboard, Lauren said, putting down her fork. First, an internal investigation at their firm. They won't give us a time frame, but it's usually 10 to 14 days. We don't push the process, but we do file formal preservation requests. Jenny from our team has already sent one. Second, you have the family line. What are you planning? Agreement or lawsuit? I'm leaning toward an agreement. Aaron gets the house, the savings are split 50-50ths. Maya gets her choice, Ben said. But that's only possible if Aaron stops playing the misunderstanding game and admits the facts. Otherwise, lawsuits. Brenda is preparing both options. We plan to send a draft framework agreement on Monday. I support that, Lauren nodded. For my part, I am officially filing a complaint with HR, plus a statement to the firm's ethics committee. These are two different threads. The first is about disciplinary action, the second is about cultural risks. I am not demanding that everyone be fired immediately. I am demanding a procedure. It does not sound aggressive, but it does violate the rules. Are you going to touch PR? Ben asked. No, Lauren said. And you don't need any. No interviews, no anonymous comments. If rumors start to leak out, my lawyer will give the standard wording. We are in a family and corporate process. We ask that privacy be respected. That's it. Any emotional speech in the press is an advantage for their side. I agree, Ben said. Lauren unfolded the notebook. Next move. They will probably offer to talk the three of us without lawyers. Don't agree. In writing, in the presence of lawyers. If necessary, the first meeting in Brenda's office with a protocol. Yes, said Ben. I already indicated that in the letter. Excellent. Now about the money, Lauren continued. You opened a separate account. Well done. Also, set up notifications for large transactions on the joint accounts. If someone starts to clean, it will be immediately obvious. As for property, no re-registrations until the agreement is fixed, including cars. I'll do it this weekend, Ben said. The internet provider, I'll also change the contact to duplicate. I won't change passwords without notice, but I need to have access. Lauren nodded. One more thing about the children, she said. Aaron's letter to you may include wording like, you're manipulating Maya. I've already had that happen. Keep it, don't respond. If necessary, we'll show the court. Maya is an adult, living with you of her own free will. We're not making any attempts to limit her communication with her mother. Yes, Ben said. We talked it over. She decided to stay with her grandparents. Lauren's phone blinked softly. She looked at it and put it back. Grant sent let's meet for coffee and a smiley, she said calmly. I'm forwarding it to the lawyer. They're behaving the way they used to, Ben said. Yes, Lauren replied. And that's what the strategy is all about. Not getting involved in their usual patterns, just procedures. Also, I have a recommendation for a therapist for you. Not because we need to talk about feelings, but because the courts like to see that the parties are taking care of their mental health during a crisis. A couple of visits is enough to show that you're not ignoring the situation. Plus, it's easier for you to breathe. Write it down, Ben said. She took out a business card and wrote down the name and phone number. She has a busy schedule, but she'll find time for short sessions, Lauren said. And finally, if Aaron tries to come to the house without warning, call the police not for a scandal, but to record the fact of a breach of agreement. But that's an extreme case. It's better to agree on things in writing in advance. We've already sent her a letter asking her not to come without permission, Ben said. I hope that's enough. The waiter offered dessert. They declined. Ben asked to split the bill. Lauren didn't argue. I don't want it to look like a date or like someone is treating someone, he said. Me too, she nodded. We're here on business. I'm glad you shared that. Trevor brought the check. Ben paid his share, Lauren hers. They placed the cards on the tray at the same time and smiled briefly at the situation, not out of friendship, but out of concerted action. On the way out, they stopped at the door. It was warm outside. People were walking with bags from the shops, some were laughing. The world around them went on as usual. I'll put together a packet for the court this weekend, copies of bills, printouts, certified letters, Lauren said. We'll send it out on Monday. Is it convenient for you to send it through Brenda? Yes, said Ben. I'll put everything away and make an inventory on Sunday evening. I have everything in folders. Okay? And one more thing. Lauren looked straight ahead. If at any point you feel like you're failing, call. Not because I understand how hard it is for you, but because I have experience and a list of steps. We agreed not to be friends for the sake of friendship, but it's easier to hold the line together. I will, Ben said, and thanks for meeting today. It's made my head less noisy. Me too, she said. We'll stick to the schedule. Until next time. They shook hands and went to their cars. Ben got in, turned on the headlights, but didn't drive off right away. He opened his notes and added items for the weekend. Bank alerts turn on. Provider duplicate by email. Therapist make an appointment. Inventory of folders due. Next to it, he wrote a short one. Jack talk on Sunday without arguing. Ethan clarify schedule. Maya textbooks. The drive home took 15 minutes. Grandma was cutting apples for a pie in the kitchen. Grandpa was watching the local news. Maya was reading notes at the table with colorful stickers in the margins. How was the meeting? She asked. To the point. No frills, Ben said. We've got a 2-week plan. No sudden moves. Everything through letters and procedures. Okay, Maya nodded. It makes it easier for me to study when I know we have a plan. Yes, he said. I'll call the therapist tomorrow at 10. It's a formality, but it's good for me too. It's not a formality, Maya said. It's normal. He poured himself some water and sat down on the edge of the table. On Sunday, if you don't mind, the 3 of us will talk with Jack, he said. Not about facts, but about everyday things. How we divide up responsibilities, who goes to grandma's to the store, who looks after the lawn near the house so that the neighbors don't complain. I don't mind, Maya said. I'll make a list. Ben smiled briefly. He looked at his watch. It was almost 9. His phone vibrated. A letter from Brenda. I confirm. Copies of applications received. I am preparing a package for their company and a template agreement on Monday. Rest. He replied, thank you, and put the phone face down. The night passed quietly. No bursts of messages, no unexpected calls. Ben fell asleep quickly, as if after a hard day at the station. The plan was not just on paper, it was in his head and in the folders on his desk. And it gave him a sense of support that did not depend on other people's words. Saturday started with letters. At 7:40, Ben opened his email and saw 2 messages from Brenda. The first was a dry line. Claim accepted for proceedings. Case number such and such. Copy attached. The second was a weekend checklist. Scan Aaron's passport to compare with bookings, confirm utility bills, prepare an inventory of the property in the house by category. He responded briefly, accepted. I will do it today. Maya came out of the room wearing sweatpants and a college t-shirt. News, she asked, opening the refrigerator. The case is registered, Ben said. Brenda sent the number. For us, this is more of an organization than an event. Okay, Maya nodded. I'm going to the library after lunch. I'll take your list and print it out. Thank you. Take my flash drive. He drove her to campus, came back, and stopped at the station to sign the invoices. Ruth was already there. I saw their firm on the news feed, she said as Ben signed the papers. They wrote that the partner was temporarily suspended from the project. It doesn't concern you, I know. I'm just letting you know so you don't get surprised by the talk around town. Got it, Ben said. I don't talk about it at work. That's right, Ruth nodded. If anything happens, I'll cover for you on schedule. He drove on to the corner hardware store for boxes of paper and markers. In the parking lot, his old neighborhood neighbor, Tom Sanders, called out to him. They had been shaking heads at the Saturday fair for years. "Hey, Ben," Tom said. "I heard you were at your parents'. Is everything okay?" "For a while," Ben replied. "We're sorting out everyday stuff." "Got it," Tom said. "If you need your lawn mowed during these weeks, just let me know. I'll stop by with the guy." "I'd be grateful," Ben said. "I'll send you the address and the gate code." At the store, he bought 4 heavy-duty boxes, dividers, and self-adhesive labels. The cashier at the checkout asked if he needed help loading them. Ben declined. In the car, he closed his eyes for a minute, got ready, and drove to his parents' house. Lauren called around noon. "Give me an update," she said without further ado. "The lawsuit has been filed," Ben replied. "Yours?" "I have filed a complaint with HR, and the ethics committee received a copy. Yesterday, their internal memo was sent to employees. An investigation is underway. We are not discussing details." Grant was removed from all internal committees for a while. Erin was offered a paid vacation for a week. At first, she refused, then agreed to a few days. The PR department gave a wording for external ones. "We do not comment on personal matters." The partners wrote to me that they are ready to cooperate in preserving the correspondence. Lauren paused. "I am not happy. I am just recording." "Got it," Ben said. "It's important to me that this goes according to procedure." "It's all according to procedure," Lauren said. "And another thing, I have a friend in the compliance department who sent me a list of requests that they've already received from clients' lawyers. People are being cautious. This pressure isn't on you or me. It's the reality of their market." "I understand that," Ben said. They said goodbye. Ben opened the boxes, sorted the folders into their respective sections. Finance, real estate, utilities, correspondence, photos, videos, errands, work papers. In the last one, he put the printed code of conduct and the litigation hold. He had no feelings for the paper. They were tools. After lunch, Brenda suggested a short call. "Exactly at 2, she said. 10 minutes, no more." At 2 o'clock, the phone rang. "Just a clarification on strategy," Brenda said. "We'll keep it neutral. If Erin writes, 'You're destroying me,' we don't respond in her dictionary. We respond with all questions through a lawyer. Any attempts to come into the house we record. And one more thing, we don't publish anything. Social media zero. If one of the kids writes a post, ask them to delete it, not for censorship, but for business reasons." "We're already down to 0, Ben said. "I'll warn the guys again." "Okay, and one last thing. On Monday, I'll send her a draft of the framework agreement. The points are, Erin gets the house based on the valuation of an independent appraiser. The pension funds are split equally. The bills are fixed as of the filing date. Maya lives where she wants. Any mutual grievances from the past are not to be used as leverage. That's a reasonable start." "I agree," Ben said. They hung up. Ben texted Jack and Ethan briefly, "Please don't post about the situation. It's disruptive." Both responded, "Okay." At 3, Erin sent long messages. The first asked for a one-on-one meeting without lawyers so as not to completely ruin things. The second was a series of phrases about filing error, professional misunderstanding, and too harsh a tone. Ben didn't respond. He forwarded it to Brenda. She returned the template. "We are ready to discuss the issues at the lawyer's office. Please suggest a convenient day and time next week." Ben copied the text and sent it to Erin, removing the emotion and adding one line. "Please do not come to the house without permission." 10 minutes later, a short, "accepted," came. Then another, "I will communicate directly with the children." Ben replied, "That is their right." Erin did not write further. At 4, Maya returned from the library with printouts. "I took 2 copies of everything Brenda asked for," she said. "I put them in your folders. I also bought a proper stapler, not the one that falls apart." "Thank you," Ben said. Jack's coming this evening. We agreed on 7. Let's talk about everyday things. Okay, Maya nodded. I'll run to my friend's house at 5 and be back for dinner. Tom Sanders called around 5 o'clock. Your lawn was mowed, he said. I left a note in the mailbox for the HOA to delay any reminder letters. They like to send out papers. Tom, thanks, Ben said. I'll give you some for the work and the gas. No need, Tom replied. That's what neighbors are for. If it drags on, then we'll discuss it. At 6:45, Jack arrived. He hugged Maya, said hello to his grandmother, and sat on the veranda with his father. I talked to my mother, he began. She said she was on vacation until things get cleared up. She said they were checking according to protocol, and that you'd gone too far. I didn't do anything at her job, Ben said calmly. I protect my boundaries and the children's interests. Everything that concerns her work is the result of their company's rules. I don't interfere with it. I understand that, Jack nodded. I still feel bad about it, but I'm starting to see that you're not doing anything extra. I won't, Ben said. Now it's practical. We need to divide up the household chores. The lawn by the house Tom has taken over for a couple of weeks. The watering on a timer. The mail, I'll pick it up tomorrow. Grocery for Grandma and Grandpa for the week, I'll give you a list and take turns. You tomorrow, Ethan on Wednesday, me on Friday. Maya helps with the cooking and small shopping. I'll take Sunday, said Jack. The list came this evening. Okay, Ben said. They also discussed who would take Maya to the student health clinic for her checkup on Tuesday and who would stop by the ISP to add Ben's email as a contact. Jack volunteered to go to the ISP. His office was on the way to campus. Ethan came at 8. He sat down, listened to the distribution of tasks, agreed with Wednesday, and added, I can stop by the house on Tuesday evening and check the windows and the back gate. Just a formality. Check it out, Ben said, and take a photo if anything. Later, when the children had gone to their rooms, Lauren called. You might get messages from Aaron's friends with support and a request not to air your dirty laundry, she said. I've already received 2 such notes from mutual friends. You're adults, decide for yourselves. I don't answer. You have the same advice, silence or a polite referral to lawyers. I'll take it, Ben said. I already had 1 email today from Aaron's colleague. Let's sit down and talk. I didn't answer. That's right, Lauren said. They're not bad people. They're just trying to get back to normal. But there's no normal anymore. There's a procedure. At 9, Brenda sent a short report of the day. Claim filed, delivery confirmed, internal review underway. On Monday, a package of documents to HR and a draft of Aaron's agreement. You rest. Ben replied, okay, and put the phone down. Before going to bed, he sat on the veranda with his father, who silently handed him a mug of tea. What's the plan for tomorrow? Asked the father. Mail ISP first aid kit for Maya, Ben said, and an hour at the farm to help you with the pump. We'll need help, said the father. As for the rest, stay the course, and don't listen to those who suggest closing your eyes for the sake of peace. Peace is order, not silence. I know, Ben said. He lay down and for the first time that day thought of Aaron, not as a defendant in a case, but as someone he had lived with for many years. The thought lasted for a second. He didn't push it away or dwell on it. He simply brought himself back to the plan, the meeting at the lawyer's office next week, the list of work and home issues, the kids' schedule. In the morning, it will become business again. Today is enough. Monday, county court. Metal detector at the entrance, basket for keys and phone. Ben put the folder in the tray, went through the frame, took his number at the reception. Brenda was already waiting by the elevator, dark jacket, neat folder with colorful bookmarks. Inhale, exhale, she said briefly as the elevator doors closed. Today is not about feelings. Today is about text. I'm ready, Ben replied. They were taken to a small conference room on the 3rd floor, a rectangular table, a pitcher of water, a box of disposable cups, and a clock on the wall. 5 minutes later, Erin and her lawyer entered a tall man in his mid-40s who introduced himself as Sam Reeves. Erin was wearing a gray suit, her hair loose, and shadows under her eyes. She sat down across from them, not looking up. "I suggest we go section by section," Sam began. "We have a mutual vision for the house and the pensions. The rest is close." "Come on," Brenda said, laying out the papers. "House, appraised by Midwest Appraisal. Of that, 90 days worth of Ben's equity. Mortgage payments to closing, split evenly. House taxes, split evenly. Insurance, split evenly until closing." "We'll agree to Midwest Appraisal," Sam said, "but we're asking for 120 days to close. Given the internal review at my client's place of work, the loan may take longer." Brenda looked at Ben. He nodded. 120, she said, "provided that you transfer the deposit to escrow on the 7th day after the appraisal. Otherwise, the house is put up for sale and divided in the same proportion." Sam made a note. Next, Brenda continued. "Pension and savings. We divide in half based on the date of filing the claim. Transfers within 60 days. "Agreed," Sam said. "Cars remain with the actual owners. Titles re-register each in their own name," added Brenda. "Health insurance. Until the end of the current period, Erin leaves Ben and Maya on the family plan. From the new period, everyone chooses their own plan. Maya is an adult. She will stay where she decides." "I agree," Erin said for the first time. Her voice was even and quiet. "Maya will stay with her father for now, as long as it makes her feel better." "Okay," Brenda said, placing the insert next to her. "Children. Formally, all adults. We'll just record. No manipulation through children, no pressure with requests to pass on, convince. Communication directly or through lawyers." "Yes," Sam said. "We'll include it in the text." "Current month's expenses," Brenda continued. "Utilities for the house split in half. Cards we don't close, but we don't raise limits without the consent of the other party. No major purchases without notice." "Agreed," Sam nodded. "And a non-discrediting clause," added Brenda. "No interviews, no social media posts. If any third party posts anything about the personal side of the matter, the parties refrain from commenting. Corporate procedures are separate and outside the scope of this agreement." Sam looked up. "We ask that it be added that Erin does not admit the allegations set forth in the corporate portion, and the family agreement is not an admission of guilt." "No problem," Brenda replied. "For us, it's a financial and organizational document." They went through a few more items. The date of handing over the keys, a list of Ben's things he would pick up within 2 weeks, work tools, some clothing, folders, an inventory of furniture that was not being divided. Each item sounded dull and precise, like a checklist. In between, the court clerk poked her head in the door, took the signed forms for the judge's preliminary approval. 10-minute break," Sam suggested. "I want to clarify a couple of things with the client." Everyone stood up. Ben went out into the hallway, bought a coffee from the machine, and leaned on the windowsill. 2 police constables walked past. A couple came out of the next conference room, arguing in whispers about dogs and dog walks. Ben took a sip and looked out the window at the parking lot. His phone blinked. A message from Maya. "How are you?" he typed. "Calm down. Papers. Be back by 3. He set his phone to vibrate. "Ben, can I speak for a minute?" Erin appeared next to him. She was standing a step and a half away, holding a paper cup, looking not straight ahead, but at the side wall. "Speak," he said. "It was more complicated than that," she said quietly. "I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's not just having an affair with the boss. There's a lot of pressure, expectations, old mistakes. I know I look terrible. I just wanted you to hear off the record that I—" Ben didn't let her finish. "It's not words that decide, but behavior. Today behavior, later the same." She nodded. There were no tears in her eyes, only tiredness. She took a step back. "Tell Maya that I—" She hesitated. That I won't demand anything. Let her live where she wants. I'll tell you, Ben replied. They returned to the conference room. Brenda and Sam were already seated. The court secretary brought in papers with notes. The judge asked to clarify the clause on escrow terms, the secretary said, and to add a line on mutual waivers of claims for past periods, except for those expressly stated. We'll add, Brenda said. While the lawyers edited the text, Ben looked at the table. A silver pen lay next to him, the court logo on the body. A thought surfaced of their first visit to the bank for a mortgage many years ago. The signatures, the joy, the plans. He pushed the image away. Today was not that day. It's done, Sam said. Shall we go to the judge? They went into a small room to ratify the agreements. The judge, a woman of about 50, stern, without unnecessary intonations, looked over her glasses. Have the parties read the document, understand its terms, and sign it voluntarily? She asked. Yes, Ben said. Yes, Aaron said. Great, the judge signed and sealed the agreement. The agreement is approved. I recommend maintaining the tone and distance. It always helps more than it seems. All the best. They returned to the conference room to collect their folders. Sam extended his hand to Brenda. Thank you for your restraint. And you too, she nodded. The less noise, the less pain. Erin closed her folder and looked at Ben. I will transfer the deposit to escrow immediately after the appraisal. I will write to the agent today. Okay, he said. That was all. They went out into the hallway. Brenda led Ben towards the elevator. Next we have logistics, she said as the doors closed. The house appraisal is this week. I'll send the appraiser's contact details. At the same time, letters to the banks about transferring pension funds. Things are on the list, no surprises. Otherwise, we're living according to schedule. You've held up well. Thank you, Ben said. Any late messages with explanations? Brenda raised a finger. Forward them to me. Don't answer. Any questions about the kids, just a quick, short, contact them. And know this, it's normal to feel empty after days like this. Fill it with things to do. I'll fill it out, he said and smiled barely noticeably. As Ben exited the court, he saw Jack standing by a column, his hands in his pockets. I waited, he said. I wanted to, well, be close. Thank you, Ben replied. Everything's signed. Mom texted me on the way, Jack said, asked if I could talk to you. I said that wasn't my role anymore. He paused. Dad, I'm sorry about last week. I was throwing around phrases without looking at the facts. I was protecting her because that's what I'm used to. You didn't raise your voice or blackmail us. That's right. I'm sorry. Agreed, Ben said. And don't beat yourself up. You did what you felt. Now we all do what we need to do. They went out onto the porch. The air was thick and warm. Someone was taking pictures with a paper bag on the steps. It looked like a family adoption. Life went on. Shall we go get something to eat? Jack asked. There's a snack bar nearby. I promised Maya I'd pick her up by 3, Ben said. Let's meet at Grandma's tonight. I'll pick up pizza on the way. Agreed, Jack nodded. I'll stop by the provider and set your email as a backup. It's on the way today. Thank you. Ben got in the car. At a traffic light, he texted Lauren. Family signed. House 120 days buyout, split the rest. No scenes. The reply came quickly. I see. Our HR is moving along as planned. Grant is suspended. Stay the course. He put the phone down. At the college, Maya was already waiting at the porch with a backpack and a thin folder. Well, she asked, sitting down. We signed, Ben said. The house Mom buys based on the appraisal. The savings half and half. You live where you want. No, through the children. Everything through lawyers. I see, she nodded. How are you? It's empty and quiet, he said honestly, but it's better than chaos. If you want to remain silent, we remain silent, said Maya. If you want to talk, we talk. Let's keep quiet until dinner, Ben said. They stopped for pizza, stopped at a drugstore on the way to buy vitamins for Grandpa. At home, Grandma was already putting salad on the table. Grandpa was fiddling with the kettle. Jack and Ethan arrived in the evening. The five of them sat down. The conversations were simple, about classes, about the pump on the farm, about the football match at school. No one said the word court. It wasn't necessary. After dinner, Jack lingered on the porch. I'll go to campus, he said. I'll stop by again on Sunday. I'll help you pack your things on the list if you need me to. Thank you, Ben said. The appraiser is coming to look at the house tomorrow morning. I'll meet him and then go. Okay, I love you, Jack said, unexpectedly for himself and his father. And I you, Ben replied. Ethan shook his father's hand firmly, without saying a word. Maya collected the plates and went into the kitchen. Ben went out into the backyard for a few minutes. His phone blinked a letter from Brenda, enclosed signed agreement. Now execution. I'll be in touch. He saved the file in the maternity leave folder. In the room, he took out a notebook and wrote new lines. Assessment Tuesday, 10 o'clock. Escrow up to +7 days. Pension transfers up to 60 days. List of things approve. Not a single line about why, only when and how. He woke up once during the night because the clock in the hallway was ticking louder than usual. He rolled over and caught a thought. Today, no one was shouting. No one was demanding immediate explanations. No one was trying to include the children in the argument. This was a proper farewell, not because it was beautiful, but because it was the right thing to do. He fell asleep again. A week had passed since the trial. The routine had returned to clear points. Morning breakfast at parents', at 8 the road to the station, in the afternoon chores and paperwork. Ben noticed that it had become easier for him to answer questions like, "How are you?" "Fine, I'm working." He did not ask unnecessary questions and did not lie. On Monday, he visited the appraiser, who issued a report on the house. The amount was slightly lower than expected, but enough to make the buyout plan happen. On Tuesday, confirmation came from the escrow agent. The deposit had been received, the deadline had begun. Ben noted the date, T+120, in his notebook and set weekly reminders. There was plenty to do at the station. Tyler was tinkering with the engine of the old John Deere. Ruth was catching up on overdue bills. Ben listened to Tyler, gave him some pointers on how to set up the marks, then called the supplier for the hydraulic hoses. "We'll close the account by Friday," he said. "The Delaware client is our priority. You know him." "We know," they answered on the other end. "We'll ship it tomorrow." At lunchtime, he went into the break room, poured himself some coffee from a thermos, took a clean sheet of paper from a folder and wrote down 3 points. Provider duplicate emails confirmed. Utilities do not change auto payment until closing. Maya card for a month in advance. The list was short, but it was clear that life was going smoothly. Wednesday therapist. Office on the second floor of the business center, soft chairs, a box of tissues on the table. Dr. Caitlin chewed dry, attentive, without trying to pity. She suggested talking about facts and what Ben wants to control and what he doesn't. "You stick to the procedure," she said, leafing through the notes. "That's right, but give yourself 20 minutes a day without lists, not to cry, but to hear yourself. If a rollback is not a failure, it's part of the process. I don't speak in patterns. I'll just write it down." "I'm fine with a straight conversation," Ben replied. "I don't want to analyze the motives of every letter. It's important for me not to snap at the kids and turn my parents' house into a headquarters." "That's a good goal," Caitlin said. "The maintenance is on schedule. On Mondays and Thursdays, you do something that you personally enjoy. It's not selfish. It's prevention." "Mondays, the gym," Ben said. "Thursdays, the farm with my dad." "It fits," she nodded. After the session, Ben sat in his car and marked the recurring events on his phone. Treadmill Monday, 7 o'clock. Farm Thursday, 5:30. Simple strings took up the space between the labels bank and appraiser. Life at home with her parents was going on as usual. Grandma was roasting vegetables, Grandpa was fixing a pump, Maya was studying and working part-time at a bookstore on weekends. There was less tension in the family chat now. Jack sent a photo from campus, a new lab group. Ethan a record of his swim time during training. On Friday evening, Ben met Lauren at a park by the Olentangy River to simply drop off some paperwork. They were standing by a bench, kids were riding scooters nearby, and runners were passing by. They have HR going through the motions, Lauren said, handing Ben an envelope with copies. Grant has been temporarily suspended from internal committees. Erin is on administrative leave for a week. She has conveyed through her lawyer that she is prepared not to return to joint projects with Grant. This is not a subject of negotiation for us, but we will record it. It doesn't matter for the family part, Ben said, but I understand it's a big step for you. It's important, Lauren nodded. Not because it's a punishment, but because the rule is in effect, and I've signed my son up with a school counselor. Let him talk before rumors start. I suggested a school counselor on campus to Maya too, Ben said. She said she has enough family and friends for now. I'm not pushing. That's right, Lauren said. With our business this weekend, I'll put together a packet for the court and send it to Brenda. I have a committee meeting on Monday. If anything changes, I'll write. Thanks, Ben said, and thanks again for the therapist's recommendation. You're welcome, she replied. And remember, we don't have friendship for the sake of support. We have work for the sake of order. It saves energy. Agree. They said goodbye briefly without trying to continue the conversation. Ben got into the car and drove to his parents' house in time for dinner. Saturday started on the farm. Dad asked for help with the fence at the pasture. Ben got a set of wrenches, checked the posts, and replaced a sagging cable. Maya got ready to go to the bookstore, put on an apron with the store logo, and asked for a ride. On the way, they discussed her midterm schedule. I have a statistics test in 2 weeks, she said. It's fine, I'm preparing. We have a meeting with the freshman mentor on Monday. I'll ask about an internship for the summer. Cool, Ben said. I'll pick you up at 6. Text me if you're late. Okay, Maya nodded. By the way, there's a fair in town today at Easton's. Julie suggested stopping by after her shift. Are you and Grandma and Grandpa coming? We thought so, Ben said. We'll look at the stands, get some lemonade. He dropped Maya off and returned to the farm. Together with his father, he changed the seal on the pump. Then Ben drove around the perimeter of the property, checked the locks on the gates. Simple work, clear results. In the afternoon, a letter arrived from Brenda. Pension transfers have been launched, approximately up to 60 days. As for the house, the assessment has been accepted. We are recording the escrow. The next step is a list of things to take out on Thursday. Ben replied, the list is ready. I will take them out strictly according to the inventory. At 4, he and his parents and Maya drove to the fair. The parking lot was full, but they found a spot at the far end. The square had craft stalls, a cider stand, and a stage with a local band. It smelled of roasted nuts and chili. Kids were running around with balloons, and tickets for the school team raffle were being sold under an awning. Shall we each get a hot dog? Asked the grandfather. We'll take it, Ben answered. They were standing in line when Ben noticed Lauren. She was with a teenager, tall, wearing a school football jacket. They saw each other at the same time. Lauren nodded, no surprise. She walked over. Hello, she said. This is my son, Aiden. Ben, he said. This is my daughter, Maya, my parents. They exchanged the usual phrases. Aiden nodded to the adults, said he was going to get lemonade. Lauren stayed for a minute. How is your day going? She asked. Easy, said Ben. The farm, the bookstore, now the fair. We do too, Lauren replied. I'm glad to see you out of your folders and letters. It's helpful. Yes, Ben said. They stood in silence. There was no awkwardness. There was simply no need to say anything extra. If anything comes up over the weekend, I'll write, Lauren said, but it's best if it doesn't come up. I agree, Ben said. Aiden returned with 2 glasses and called Lauren up to the stage to watch the school orchestra perform. She nodded at Ben and left. His grandmother looked at her son carefully but said nothing. His grandfather handed everyone hot dogs, and they took them and went to a row of tables. Not a bad day, Maya said after a few minutes. No heavy talk, just people and music. So be it, Ben replied. In the evening, they stopped by a charity fair stand a collection for an animal shelter. Maya threw $5 into the box. Grandma bought jam. Grandpa signed up for Sunday duty at the parking lot. Ben took 2 tickets for the local lottery purely out of respect for the organizers. They returned at dusk. At home, Grandma put on the tea. Grandpa turned on the local news. Maya took her textbook into her room. Ben sat down on the porch. The phone blinked a message from Aaron. The assessment has been completed. I have transferred the deposit. I will be home on Thursday at 10 so that you can pick up the things on the list. I will not be in the rooms. The list has been agreed upon. Ben answered briefly, accepted. Then he forwarded it to Brenda. That's how it went on Thursday. Aaron arrived at 10, opened the door, stayed in the kitchen, and didn't go into the bedroom or the study. Ben carried out the inventory: tools, a couple of boxes of clothes, a folder of papers, school photos of the kids that he had picked out in advance. In the living room, he paused for a second at the bookcase. There was a framed photo of their family trip to Savannah. He glanced at it and left it. Following the list was following the list. I'm done, he said, walking past the kitchen. I'll be at my parents' on Sunday, Aaron said. I want to pick up a couple of books and a box of recipes. I'll write in advance. Write to Brenda, Ben said. She'll approve it. Understand. They came out onto the porch almost simultaneously. Both stopped. No one said sorry or maybe someday. Not because it was forbidden, but because it was not the order of the day. Ben nodded and walked to the car. On Sunday, the whole family gathered at their parents'. Jack brought groceries, Ethan brought ice cream, Maya baked cupcakes. Grandpa put smoked chicken on the table, Grandma put salads. At the table, they talked about plans. Jack said that he applied for an internship at a logistics company. Ethan said that the coach promised to put him in the next relay race. Maya said that she wanted to take a communications course in the summer. I'll pay for one summer item, Ben said. It's a contribution so you don't have to worry about shifts at the store during the session. Thank you, Maya said. I'll take what I can use for real work. After dinner, the 3 of them went out into the yard. The air was warm, and they could hear a dog barking somewhere. Dad, Jack said, I was wondering, can I come over to the house once a week and mow the lawn myself? Tom helped, that's cool, but I want to do something with my hands too. Not just for show. Sure, Ben said. Text me when you go. I'll give you the gate code. I'll come too, Ethan said. I'll help with the hose. Great, Ben nodded. That night, Ben sat down with a notepad. He reread his to-do list. Many items had been crossed off. There were still long processes to deal with pensions, escrow, re-registration. He added new lines that had nothing to do with the court. Make a garden bed with Maya tomatoes and peppers. Ask Grandpa to show me the irrigation settings. Saturday morning farmer's market. Call Tom and say thanks again. On Monday, he went for a run before dawn. No records, no timing, just his own pace. At the station, he brought Tyler a box of donuts for 3 successful repairs in a row. Ruth gave him a new schedule. He looked at the lines and smiled. There was a lot of work. He loved it. Lauren called in the evening. I have a quick update, she said. HR will continue the review for a couple more weeks. I'm not planning any new moves until they're done. My son asked me to schedule a meeting with his coach to talk about the schedule. This is normal life. That's what we're holding on to. That's right, Ben said. Thanks for everything. If you need help moving anything, just let me know. My truck is free in the evenings." "Agreed," Lauren replied. And Ben, "Not looking for a moral outcome is also an outcome. Sometimes just moving on is the only thing that's fair." "That's exactly what I do," he said. They hung up. Ben walked out onto the porch. He could hear cars in the distance. The house was quiet. Maya was sitting on the living room floor with a textbook, and her parents' dog, an old retriever, was lying next to her, picking on the quietest one. Grandma was sorting prescription cards. Grandpa was reading the sports column. Ben put the phone down. He had a simple thought. He had a plan for the week. He had people he could rely on, and he had the right to new arrangements in his life. No secrets, clear rules. He made no vows or grand promises. He jotted down in his notebook: fall school fair, Saturday dinners, one day off at the lake. These were plans for the future, not a list for a report, but a schedule that was convenient to live by. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one.